Hello and welcome to those of you who are coming in. We're going to take just a second or two to make sure that all of the waiting room has been cleared, and we'll see a few people pop in over the next few minutes. So, going to kind of start slow, make sure we get everybody who wants to come in before we really get started with the substance. So, welcome to those of you that have arrived. You can see from our title page that our presentation today is a general one about what the IRB is and an overview of what we can offer you and what the expectations are regarding the application process. So if you've seen any of our webinars before, you know that we go into a little bit more detail sometimes in certain other webinars about recruitment, consent, things like that. This one's going to be a basic one. Hopefully, it will provide you with some information if you haven't gotten started already, or even if you have, where you can find additional resources that we are sharing. So, welcome everyone. Please utilize the chat function if you want to let people know where you're from, any information that you're willing to share, and then we have also the Q&A function. So look for that in your menu bar for asking questions throughout the session. So I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in the next minute or two. Looks like we have about 20 people here today so far, and we'll see if we get any more popping in over the next few minutes. But since it's 6:02, I'd like to get started. So our presentation today, again, welcome, is about the IRB resources, services, and application process. So we want to show you what you can find when you come looking to the IRB for help regarding your application and how to put it together, how to submit it, and a couple of other details. We do have a webinars page, and I'll briefly mention that a little bit later. So you can always go and watch our previous webinars through our website as well. Like I said, we have a few that are more specific than this one. But this is sort of our IRB 101 event where we kind of introduce people to the IRB. So let's get started and welcome. I'm Chad Becker. I'm an IRB education analyst. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I live in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I've been with the university for a handful of years. With me today is Dr. Kelly Tribble. If you'd like to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, hello everybody. Dr. Kelly Tribble here. Great to have everyone with us. I've been with National University almost 3 years, just shy, a few months shy of 3 years. So I'm very happy to be here and share this webinar with Chad.
All right. And again, if you want to put in the chat where you're from, any information about yourself, please feel free to do that. It's nice to see that where people are calling in from tonight, today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening. I guess it depends on where you are. Could be tomorrow already. Those of you that might be celebrating Diwali might still be celebrating. It's over the 20th to the 21st, and might be finishing up with some celebrations right now. So happy Diwali to those of you who celebrate that. We have resources. We're here to talk about our resources and our services, but we want to make sure that it's very clear where you can find our resources. So, as you can see, we record the webinar and we post it later, I'm sorry, to our web page. I have a mistake in my presentation, and I apologize for that. This will not be on the website of the Graduate Studies Support Center. I overlooked that. This will be on our IRB webinars webpage. Sometimes we do presentations with them and they host us, and then the video is available there as well as our webpage. So we also have a YouTube channel, which can be very interesting for you to check out some of our help videos. And of course, this is all on our website. And I'll be giving you that web address as well throughout the presentation. You'll see there that there's a lot of hyperlinked elements within this PowerPoint presentation. So When you come back to it on our website, you can use it as a tool. We'll be posting it there after the webinar, and you can link from the different pages that I'm showing you to the different resources and services that we offer. And I think it's kind of useful in that way. So again, use the chat function to chat and use the Q&A function to ask any questions. And we'll do our best to answer them throughout. I usually stop every 5 or 10 minutes and ask if there's any relevant questions. Dr. Tribble is going to be responding to those and also letting me know if there are any that are useful, for the group. So we'll do that throughout the webinar, and then we will post the recording, PowerPoint slides, and the Q&A, the finalized question and answer document, to our website. So these are available. If you go, you'll see all of the last ones we've done over the last couple of years, and we hope it's a good and useful resource for you. Today's presentation then is going to be a discussion of kind of what we do as an IRB, why we exist, why you have to use us to do research, as well as a kind of overview of our resources and services. And we want to make sure that you understand just how much we have available for you as a researcher to help you through the process. And we're going to talk a little bit about that process. I'll show you a few views from inside our application system, and we may have some extra time at the end as well. For now, stay on mute and ask your questions in the Q&A. If we do end up having some time at the end and folks want to have a little bit of a discussion, that's the more appropriate time for it. So thank you for that. And we're going to get started here with some of the content. So we're a committee, the IRB, the Institutional Review Board. It's essentially designated by the federal government. So if you want to satisfy the ethical requirements of research as an institution, you need to have an IRB. And of course, National University has one. And the reason that IRBs exist is because of the historical mistreatment and abuse of human subjects in research. So while many of you are thinking of social, behavioral, or educational research ideas, and mistreatment and abuse may not be part of that, there is risk sometimes as well to participants, and so we want to make sure to cover all of these bases. But generally, IRBs began because researchers were not being ethical with their research, and the federal government essentially said, these are the things that you're going to need to do if you're going to do research with human subjects. So if you want to read about that common rule that's published by the federal government, I have that linked here to the Department of Health and Human Services website. And it's a pretty interesting document. For those of you who are interested, it's interesting. We're going to boil it down a little bit here. Examples of historical abuse of human subjects in research. Some of these you might be familiar with. Certainly they are touchstones in American research, the Nuremberg trial and world research. Nuremberg trials and the Nuremberg Code. And I've got these linked here for you as well, if you're interested in that. But essentially, risk should never exceed the reward, right? And there needs to be voluntariness. So those are some of the key contributions of the Nuremberg Code. And we've seen quite a bit of abuse in research in the United States of America, in particular the Tuskegee syphilis study, which went on for 40 years, exposed by investigative journalism. And this, what I've linked here, is really quite fascinating. You might find that to be an interesting read about just how it came about that we understood what was happening and essentially, kind of put an end to it. Again, awareness of the need for human protection, subjects, protecting human subjects, and voluntary consent to participate in research. That was kind of a big part of the Tuskegee experiment, was people didn't know what they were getting into. They were not informed about it. All right, so the other big part of what creates IRBs was the 1974 National Research Act and the Belmont Report that came out of it. So a little bit of history for you, not too much, but you can read it here if you want. The Belmont Report is a rather lengthy document, but does kind of spell out the charge for IRBs and the three key components: beneficence, respect for persons, and justice. So when we think about research, this is our perspective. We hope that you've chosen a good research design, and we hope that you're executing the template well. But what we're concerned with at the IRB level is the protection of human subjects, and we take these three components, especially into consideration. You may have a study that doesn't look like research, but is. So we expect that anyone who's doing research will submit to the IRB, and then we'll make that determination as to whether or not it's with human subjects or it's maybe not research because it's for internal development purposes. We do a lot of quality assessment, quality improvement at the university. So we do see quite a bit of research, different kinds of research. And essentially, though, the guideline is an IRB review is required if there are human subjects and it's considered research, which is a systematic investigation, right, designed to contribute to generalizable knowledge, meaning it's going to be, well, shorthand, it's going to be published. And of course, master's theses and dissertations are published. So students, of course, need to use the IRB just as much as any faculty member or staff member or administrator who's doing research. So we try to make these presentations for all researchers at the university. We do see a lot of graduate student researchers work come through. It might be somewhere between 70 and 75% of what we review. So it does make up a big portion of it. So if I stray sometimes and might talk about students in particular, that's the reason. But we do try to represent this for all researchers at the university. So all NU community members have access to our services and resources at any time. So if you're a faculty member, obviously, anytime. If you're a student, you may think, well, I can't access these resources and services until I'm a certain distance into my program. And that's not the truth. You can access these services and resources at any point in your programs. So we want to make sure that people aren't constrained by thinking that because there's a course maybe in my program that's called the IRB, that you can't approach us and receive help from us before that. We want to make sure that you do recognize that you can come at any time. So student principal investigators can use it at any point in their programs, and especially dissertation student primary investigators, they need not be. So sorry if its wording is a little confusing. They don't have to be enrolled in the IRB course, which in many of our programs is the dissertation sequence DIS 9903 or 9913. So if you're a student, you might recognize these numbers. If you're a faculty member, you might recognize these numbers as well. Students do not need to be in these courses before they can access our resources and services. Now, as far as going as submitting your application, we do have an institutional policy that is that you have to be in this course in order to submit your application. But for some people, it takes months to get their application together, or at least weeks to gather all of the information that's required. So you want to make sure to not wait and then realize you could have been doing some of these things before you engaged with the IRB. So in part, that's what we're here to make sure everybody understands. Now, what resources do we have? This is the next section that we'll talk about. I haven't really been monitoring. I can't really see the Q&A, Dr. Tribble, if we've received anything up to this point.
No questions up to now. Just a
Yep.
reminder, I post one into the chat, but just if you'd like to ask a question, just open up that Q&A tab. You should be able to find it on your toolbar and just fire up a question. And if I can answer it immediately, I will. If not, I'll throw it to chat at the next break.
Sounds good. And our website is linked here. If you've not been to our website, it is pretty resource rich, is what kind of what we like to use as our expression for it. We have different pages As you can see, as I hover over these, each of these are hyperlinked pages, and they pertain to important components within the IRB application process. So it's kind of linear, and we want you to think about getting started with us by using that tab to understand what it means to get started with the IRB. Some things that we talk about are maybe try to think about how feasible your project is. So we have a checklist for you there. Thinking about, do you have your city training? You might have it from a previous course. It might still be valid. They're good for 3 years usually. Um, Getting started kind of stuff, right? Pointing you in directions towards the services that are best suited for either beginning researchers or people who are just about to submit an application and may not have much experience with that. So we also have some institutional requirements. So learning IRB requirements is both kind of what we require and also what the university requires. So what course do you need to be registered to submit your IRB application? Those kinds of combinations of institutional policy and IRB policy. So please take a look at that. Special guidance is a page that includes information on how to research, say, with Native communities, for how to do international research, possibly military research. So some special guidance there for atypical or non-typical populations that we see. And then the big one, preparing IRB documents. So we have an entire tab with about 12 different pages, each one devoted to helping you understand how to prepare a specific document. And by that, I might mean a recruitment email, possibly a social media post. Maybe it's a consent letter, or perhaps a permission that you're trying to understand for accessing resources at your site. We also have information in that tab about other sort of non-typical components of research. So if you're, utilizing children and you need to get the parents' permission first and then assent from the child, perhaps you're doing research in an everyday educational setting, and an info letter is what would be used rather than permission and assent. So if you have questions about those, the next page will be very useful for you as we talk about how you can get help understanding the resources that we have available. Moving on, though, we have templates, making life easier. So we have templates for all kinds of the IRB documents that are required, consent, assent, permission, recruitment emails, recruitment flyers, anything that you have to produce for us as part of your application likely has a template for it. So please take a look through those pages, and then you can potentially link to our services. So we'll talk about our services and what we have available there in a minute. But some of the other materials that we have are some of the other resources that we have are help materials that include documents as well as short videos. So Dr. Tribble has been working hard making 2-3 minute videos to help people understand key components of the process, key components of the application. And you can find quite a bit on that page. Again, documents, just kind of depends on how you learn. We have videos and several other modalities for you to learn through. We have that YouTube channel that I had mentioned earlier, and we do publish bi-monthly newsletters that are available on our website. There's one right now on our homepage. That's usually where I keep the current one. So for October, November, I'm sorry, for September, October, we have our current one on our homepage, but we also have all of them on our newsletters page, and you can kind of go back and take a look at those. They're short, they're one pagers. It's not too much TMTR. It's kind of brief and to the point about what's upcoming in the IRB land. All right, so those are some of our resources, and I'm going to move into services. So if you have any questions about the resources, pop them in, let us know, and I will move forward with services. So linking to our services, then we have a web page on our website where you can sign up for different services that we offer. So we offer regularly occurring and self-schedulable services. So on our website, you can link here for group writing sessions, and these are the four that essentially are group sessions. These are the four that we do. We have office hours, and we also have webinars that you're at today. So let me talk just briefly about this. Short presentations with verbal and written feedback. So it can be an incredibly useful service for you if you're working on, say, a recruitment email and you're looking at our template and you're attempting to create your own uh, email for recruitment and you want someone to look at it. So the way that we offer the service that we offer for that is a group session. And you can see that we hold them for eligibility criteria. So usually those are only a few sentences long. So it doesn't take a lot to get good feedback. The sessions are an hour long. You'll view a short presentation and then have time to have your work reviewed verbally uh, at, one to one in the session, and then have written comments sent through email after the session. So think about how useful that is. Eligibility criteria, recruitment materials, and consent materials. We have mini courses that occur several times each week, about 6 to 8 people in each one. And based on looking at just them the other day, there's some room. So there's usually they're half, 3/4 full, and we try to make, we've worked really hard to try to make sure that we're offering an appropriate amount of these at differing times so that people can fit them into their schedule. So again, you'd submit ahead of time, the presenter would present, and then go through your feedback with you so that you can converse about it if you have any questions, and then send it to you through email. So I think we think that's a really good service for eligibility, recruitment material, and consent materials. And then we also hold a IRB application group session where you don't submit your application to it. That would be too much work for one of our educational analysts to be doing. We have other analysts to do that once it's submitted. But this is for you to get a little deeper into than what I'm going to show you today about how the application functions, what's required, and the different components that are necessary to complete an application. Each one is different. It's kind of a choose your own adventure novel for those of you that remember that from your youth. Depending on your choices, new options open up, and then you have to fill those out. And then, depending on what your answers are, more options will open up. So it can be a little confusing to go through our application system, which is called Cayuse. We have a web page about our application system, so you can read about it and take a look at some guides about how to get in there and correctly complete it. But coming to a presentation where someone is telling you where you can ask questions, it can be a very useful group session. So each of them are schedulable on our website. Just follow these links or go to our services tab, and you'll see that you just kind of sign up for a block, and our service is automated, sends you the link and the information about the time. And then you can upload your documents at that point. I'm sorry, your document. We will only review one document for each meeting. So say you're going to recruit both through email and social media. You may find that you've learned enough from the first session to complete that second one without any questions. But if you did want someone to review that second document, you would just sign up for a second recruitment material group session. All right, and we do have something that seems to be very popular with our community, which is office hours. Same thing, they're regularly occurring and self-schedulable. You can go to our website and sign up using the Book Now button that we have there. and sign up for 15 minutes, a little misleading. It's an office 15-minuter with one of our staff members to ask questions that go beyond maybe what you've learned in the group sessions, just can't find an answer for on our website. I've tried emailing the IRB and I'm not still not understanding it. You certainly don't have to wait that long to come to office hours, but we have them for many different kinds of reasons. And generally, we hold, I think Kelly was about 15 to or so of these meetings each week, maybe a little bit more, maybe I'm
Yeah.
underestimating, but we've found that they fill up, but usually just within a few days of when they're being offered. So please take a look at our office hours. And if you do find that there aren't any available to schedule, you can email us at irb@nu.edu and we will set up an office hour with you. So I'm available for that. Dr. Tribble's available in those capacities, and we are essentially make up the education staff of the IRB. So we're here to help you understand how to complete your application, and then we kind of hand it off to our analysts who are IRB professionals and know all the answers and usually get our applications right in order pretty quickly. We have these webinars, of course. I've told you we've had several in the last few years. We hold about 4 or 5 each year, and we've been doing them for about 3 years now. So there's quite a bit you can go review in that way if you like that format. All right. Any questions? All right. This
We're
is
good.
pretty basic information, so I'm not necessarily expecting any, but we may have some as we move further into a little bit more details about the process. So we have a page submitting to the IRB. So when it's time to apply, when you have compiled all of your materials, your supplemental documents, you have your proposal or your prospectus or your two-page outline, if you're a faculty member, whatever it is you're working from, when you have that, and then you've prepared your IRB supplemental documents, you're ready to apply. We do not review dissertations. We do not review theses. We do not review prospectuses. There's not even a place to attach it in the application. So when you have your supplemental documents and you have your study ideas ready, you can apply. Dissertation students, of course, have to have a proposal as part of their program, but we're talking hopefully to all kinds of PIs here today. So when it's time to submit, we have guides for how to do that. Again, we have the group session that you can attend as well. We have how-to videos, step-by-step guides, quick start guides with text and graphics, and example Caillou's views that you can take a look at. That's our application system to familiarize yourself with it. I'm going to show you a few as well during the presentation, but just want to know where you can find more of those. This is an example view of a study in Caillou's that, as you can see, has quite a few different components based upon the menu on the left-hand side. So if you come to our session, if you read our guides, you'll learn how to start the application. And this is kind of what it looks like when you get in there and you start answering questions. So our general info page starts to tell us the picture of your study. And the more answers you give, then the more the application tailors to your type of study. As you can see for this study, we are recruiting adults. We have an informed consent section. We have also adults in an educational setting. So this is quite a large application, and not every one of them will look like this. In fact, if you're doing an archival or existing data study where you're not collecting new data, but you're getting permission to use somebody else's already collected data, whether that's qualitative or quantitative, your application will, I think, be 3 or 4 sections long. This one is a little bit more involved. That's why we wanted to show you this view so that you could see just how much is expected from a primary investigator when they are applying to the IRB. So we want to know what your objectives are. We want to know what the study design is, because sometimes that can make it risky. If you're doing a study design that is an anonymous online survey where no one can be identified, that's different than doing a study where perhaps you're interviewing people at a specific site and there are risks, confidentiality risks, and other kinds of risks. So we want to know a little bit about what you're doing. Again, we are not gatekeeping design. We are just making sure that that the research design you've chosen doesn't contribute to risk for human participants. We want to know certain things like recruitment and consent for typical studies that involve adults. And then we ask certain questions about the risks and benefits and what you'll do to protect confidentiality. The application kind of helps you through it. There aren't too many places where you actually have to write a lot of stuff in the application. It's more choosing different options that open up new questions so that we can gain a sense of what it is that you're doing with your study. You can see that within our application, we have embedded links to various different resources. So even after you've looked at our web page and you go into the Cayuse application, you're still, kind of being offered these different components to look at as you work within the Cayuse system. And we did that intentionally to try to make it easier to complete these kinds of applications. Another view of our application shows kind of what an expectation is on a typical page in our application. Most of our SBER, social behavior and educational research that we see here at our institution is completed with adult participants. Makes it a little bit easier. Doesn't mean you can't use children, and if you do, there are certain extra requirements. But typically what we see is research with adults. And you have to recruit them somehow. Maybe they're your friends, and if they are, tell us that. Maybe they're your professional colleagues, and you have their contact information from working with them for years. If that's the situation, tell us. Maybe they're your coworkers, and you're asking the administrator of the institution that you work at for permission to get everybody's email addresses to email them. Perhaps you are looking to recruit through a social media site, a Facebook page. You can see that there's different options that you need to tell us that you're going to be doing, and then you'll be prompted to upload the material that corresponds with that. So we're posting a link in this study. Hopefully you can see that. It's a little light. But we're also emailing a recruitment message. And so you can see we've been prompted to upload that email letter. You can upload multiple documents here, and so we would expect to see what's in the link as well, right? Not everybody uses multiple recruitment methods. You don't have to, certainly. You can use one. Some people use two. Some people use all of them combined. So it really just depends on the study and how easy it is to reach the population. But this example page shows you gives you a sense of what our application looks like. We're going to be asking you certain components about your study, and then we're going to be either prompting you to enter text in where you explain how you're doing that, or in this particular page, upload the supplemental document that you've developed, maybe with the help of the IRB through the group sessions. So this gives you a sense of what it looks like in the application, as well as some of the things that you'll be asked for, check boxes, some written information, and then the uploading of certain supplemental materials. Kelly, I see we have somebody in the waiting room. I think they've been there for a bit. Not sure if there's a tech. I saw it pop up a couple of times, so they might be having a
I
tech
don't see
issue.
them right now, so yeah, maybe they're
Okay,
popping in and out. I'll
appreciate
keep
it.
an eye on it.
And we're doing okay with questions?
Somebody just posted if conducting an anonymous online survey, will I have to create the Qualtrics account?
So Qualtrics is not required. You could use another platform. Um, but we do offer Qualtrics accounts for NU community members. So we usually see people using Qualtrics. Office of Institutional Research, OIR, offers accounts, and you would need to have it hosted somewhere before you applied, so that you could provide that link for the IRB analyst to see what that anonymous survey looks like. Not only to check the questions, but also to see if you have a consent page as the first page where people agree voluntarily to be part of your study. So say you email recruitment and you've got a link that you want people to go to take an anonymous online survey. When they click that link, they would take you to Qualtrics or wherever else you were hosting it, and that first page would be a consent page. A little different when you're interviewing people. So our sessions, our recruitment session, and of course our online materials can be very useful in differentiating what's needed depending on how you are researching. But Qualtrics is not required. Some other hosting services, so that we can see the link. Then the link would be made live after your IRB application was approved so that you could begin to collect data. And of course, you wouldn't be recruiting until then either, so no one should have that link anyways until you have approval and begin your recruitment. So hopefully that answers the question. If not, you can always follow up. And I think I have one more view here of the informed consent page. So again, this is a pretty typical type of study, general info. We want to know your objectives, your study design. We're recruiting adults, and we're consenting adults. Okay. So um, on this page, I can't show you the whole thing, took a screenshot, but you can see that there are directions for 2 to 3 sentences worth of text about where and when you will obtain consent. And then what you can't see a little bit lower is a request to upload the consent form so that we can see it. So we want to know, do you know how to consent your participants for the type of study that you're doing? I had mentioned earlier that if you're doing an online anonymous survey, the consent form appears as the first page. They click yes and move on into your survey. If you're kind of emailing people and saying, hey, I'd like to interview you about this. Would you be interested? And they email back. Well, that's a slightly different process, right? So in those scenarios, you would email them the consent letter and then get a verbal consent from them right before the interview begins. Again, if you want to learn more information about that, you can come to our recruitment center or our recruitment session, or take a look at the resources on our website. But um, there are a couple of different ways to get consent. If you're doing a study with children or a very risky study, there may be signatures required for consent. Generally, with adults, it's verbal consent, or I click past the first page in a survey, which indicates that I'm giving my consent. And a little bit about our process, our review process. We have a lot of questions about this, and it's understandable. Cayuse has its own idiosyncrasies that sometimes can confuse researchers. So you've got all your materials ready. You're completed your application, and now you submit. So once your application is submitted, if you are a standalone researcher at the university, an administrator, a faculty, a staff member, you submit, and then you'll be prompted to certify it. And the reason that that's in there is because very rarely do we see applications from just one person. So usually there's a couple people. And we need to make sure each person on the application is certifying the application. So if you're your own researcher, you will submit and certify. And then it comes to us. If you're a student, whether that be a master's student with an advisor or a faculty mentor or a faculty chair, a dissertation chair, they will also have the opportunity to review and certify your submission. So you would submit, certify, and then it bounces to your faculty member. They would then certify, and then it would go to the IRB. So there's that extra step in there if you're a student. And of course, it's a watchdog gatekeeper step. We want to make sure that the chair is seeing what the chair is expecting, or the faculty member is seeing what they expect. Now, once that happens, and that might just take a couple of minutes if your chair is, at their computer, to submit, certify, and get chair certification. Again, if it's just you, it's submit, certify, and it comes to us. We do a pre-review. We call it kind of a triage review, just to make sure we're not wasting your time. If there's some glaring issues like missing documents or uh, a mischaracterization of the type of study that you're doing. Sometimes people will say, I'm doing an anonymous online survey, and then they end up describing what they're doing, and that's not what they're doing. Those get caught quickly within 2 days, 2 to 3 days, by our pre-reviewer. Okay, so this is one of our IRB administrators doing a pre-review. If they notice something that would keep it from moving forward into a full review, then they will send it back to you quickly to try to get that back from you, to then move on to an analyst. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen more than once, but our IRB pre-reviewer may kick it back to you if it's incomplete. Okay, they're not going to be doing a full review. They're going to just be doing a triage review. And then we move into the full IRB review. So here in our fourth set of bubbles. This is the more time consuming because an IRB analyst is looking at every component of your study, and it can take 7 to 10 days from that point. So we've got the however long it takes you in your chair, and then we've got a 2 to 3 day pre-review and a 7 to 10 day review. And then you'll receive a decision. If that decision is revisions are needed, it'll be emailed back to you, and you can start to make your revisions, resubmit, recertify, and get it going back through the system again. If it is ready to be approved, these last two steps happen simultaneously, where the post review and the determination letter are automatically sent to you. So once the IRB analyst checks that this is an appropriate study and it's ready to be approved, the system will generate a determination letter to your NU email address, or your NCU email address if you have one, and then you can begin your recruitment. The goal of our educational services are to have you move through this once, right, without dropping down into that changes may be requested kind of bubble. And we find that people who use our services, that use our resources, do move through the process more quickly. It's usually, it can be tedious if someone is not correctly revising their study and has to go through the process multiple times. We do see that, and it's frustrating for us too. And part of our quality assessment and quality improvement efforts are about how to reduce that from happening. But this gives you a sense of about how long it would take and who's going to have their hands on your application, so that you can account for that and judge your time and your own resources. This can sometimes spurn questions, so I'll stop and ask if any have come through.
We've had a few come through the chat about just timeline for, when can I expect feedback once I've submitted. I think I've answered those. And it is not as straightforward as that. Well, I only generally when an analyst has received it, yes, they're gonna when you receive feedback from them, they will have reviewed everything. But if you get feedback from the person who's just doing the pre-review part, as Chad mentioned, they're just looking for the gross errors, the incomplete forms, or oh, you uploaded the wrong city certification or whatever. And so you may get contacted by them to say, hey, please make these modifications before our analyst can really start to review it. But assuming that's okay, it gets assigned an analyst. And if you can go in there and see that it's an analyst has been assigned to it, then it's past pre-review. And now the analyst, when they reach out to you, they should give you feedback on as complete feedback as they could on everything that they see that needs to be modified or clarified before they can complete their review. So, but It takes some time, and a lot of people are like, that I see are like, are they really looking at my application for 10 days? And I try to remind people that we only have two full-time analysts, and between them, they review about 45 to 50 of these applications every single week. So really what happens was as an analyst has been assigned is you've gone to the bottom of their file, and when they get to you, they're going to get to you, but their goal is always to get to you within that 7 to 10 business days, get you some
Yes,
feedback.
and I believe we're really close to 100% at that.
We really are, yeah.
We rarely take the 10 days. Thank you for that, Dr. Tribble. And you reminded me of something that once it's past the pre-review and goes to an analyst, you'll just be going back and forth with the analyst at that point, right? That's more efficient process, obviously. And as Dr. Tribble noted, they do try to give as detailed feedback as possible, but if you're making revisions, there might be more feedback. So that can be a tricky moment as well, where you get, 8 bits of feedback and you got 7 of them spot on, but that eighth one you didn't quite get right, and now you get it back, kind of get sent back to you. That can be frustrating. So again, creating these as best as you can initially, and then working really hard to articulate what the answers are needed from the analyst, or for the analyst. So it's not a perfect process. The average is about 2 to 3 weeks, the national average for reviews, and so we're under that. Even though sometimes it feels like you're under a crunch because either you're in a course or you have a deadline to meet. So knowing this hopefully helps prepare you for what's to come. All right, just some important reminders. We have those group sessions: eligibility, recruitment, consent, application, that you can attend and really learn quite a bit from our very own Dr. Tribble, who hosts the vast majority, if not all of these sessions. Office hours as well. For dissertation students, just remember, don't submit your application until you have an approved dissertation or doctoral proposal, a DP. Um, and I'm pretty sure that coincides with you being in the right class as well. So we need to make sure that you have the completed DP. Your chair needs to make sure that you have your completed DP before they certify your application. So
Okay.
again, we're not asking for you to upload it, but you will note several components within your dissertation proposal or your doctoral proposal in the application. Dr. Tribble, did I see a hand?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted somebody posted a question in the chat about would you recommend we schedule an office hour to read and understand the feedback on the application? And I just remembered we do have some restrictions on what office hours can be used for, and I didn't know if you wanted to address that or not.
Yeah, thanks. So, at that point, where your application is in and it's being reviewed by an analyst, if you do have questions about the feedback, it's best to follow up with the IRB at nu.edu email address. And if those questions aren't answerable, we will reach out and schedule an office hour with you. But our office hour kind of our policy is that it's too hard for uh, us as education analysts to really describe some of the finer points that our IRB professional uh, review analysts make. And it can be confusing for everybody involved if at that point we provide feedback. Our associate director is our email administrator, and they will direct your question to the appropriate resource. So don't see that as kind of a dumping ground for questions that never get answered. It's usually 24 hours, 48 tops before you get an answer. And if it is something that is not really clarifiable, I'll reach out to you. They'll let me know, and I'll reach out, and we'll schedule an office hour to discuss it. Hopefully, you won't run into that, but if you do, yeah, we want to make sure to use the appropriate channels to reserve our own kind of preserve our own process and our own way of working. So thank you for that question. So if you have further questions, you're certainly welcome to stick around. We have a few minutes and we can take those further questions. You can email us, as I said, at irb@nu.edu, visit our website and attend those writing sessions and, or I'm sorry, the group sessions and the office hours. So this will be posted to our website probably tomorrow, along with the recording, so the PowerPoint that's linkable, the recording, and we won't have much of a Q&A, but we'll put what's there up for you so that anyone who comes and looks can see what some typical questions people had. You can also review the Q&A document from the last time we gave this presentation. So this is the third time in 3 years we've given this presentation, and you can kind of look at that for questions that maybe didn't come up in this session, but really would pertain to you.